and let's get started. So, if you watched my other video or saw on my Twitter or my community page, every single week I'm going to be doing 3 character discussion videos because, like, I already have the chapter reviews, those are very set, and with kind of like theories and topic discussions, like in general of like an idea or an event, those could spring up at any time because, I could just be, like I said in the other video, I could be sitting doing anything and then I'm just like, oh, shit, that's a good thing to talk about. I should, make a video on that. Maybe people want to hear about this. But with this, I want to have another scheduled thing, the just reviews. I don't want the channel to feel mostly just reviews. And I know that people have liked my character discussion videos before, so I want to have it scheduled on. We're going to do 3 every week. Fairy Tale on Saturdays, Black Clover on Tuesdays, and on Thursdays will be a mystery one. It will be from any series. And each week will be a theme. This week I just kind of picked them. You can go check out the options for the first poll, either again on Twitter or the community page on my channel. And also, I thought it was hilarious. I didn't even realize it until afterwards, but I noted in the polls that this was week 1, but the polls aren't gonna affect this week's setting. It's actually next week. So I was like, okay, this will be week 0, and then coincidentally, the first character that I'm doing a video on is named 0. So with this, we're gonna look at this character. So again, go check out the content or the polls to go pick your vote. The poll will close on Thursday or on Wednesday, and then we'll see the following Saturday next week. The next Fairy Tale character will be based on that selection. So looking at this now, we're going to talk about Zero. And Zero in general is a very interesting character, and it's not in the ways that you'd probably think. I think it's more of like his presence in the series rather than his backstory or his motivations. There's always going to be characters from series that you have like the deep, complex characters or the ones with a big goal or like all these different aspects to them. And you know what I'm talking about, like especially on this channel, like I've talked about Zero so much because there's so much to his character. And there's just piles and piles of things like relating to him that you could like look at, talk over, maybe like find something that hasn't been talked about that you only find after picking the pieces together. Zero is different because Zero's character was like a secret boss, because throughout the arc, the thing about the Oracion Seis compared to like the other guilds is the Oracion Seis were very compact. The whole thing about them is they were only 6 people, and then you have like Grimoire Heart. Grimoire Heart was, they had a core team, but they had a lot of numbers. And the Guild Tartarus, they had obviously same thing, core member, but they had like, I think their kind of like layers were not layers. Their connections were much more widespread, at least from what we saw, because we actually saw them going out and interacting with their, the dark guilds below them. But with the Oracion Seis, I mean, every single one of the, the Balam Alliance had members, guilds directly below them. But it seemed like the Oracion Seis or not the Oracion Seis, I keep saying but Tartarus just seemed to have much more of like an influence kind of layer, but they also just seemed way more laid out because of like information they knew, their kind of like, their connections and their presence, their level of influence. And, I think they seem to have the most behind the scenes stuff and the most knowledge of what was going on in a lot of the big things. But the Oracion Seis were only 6 people. And those 6 people, each were pretty cool. And one thing that was really fun is with their guild, you had Brain. Brain was their leader. And it was really cool because this was the first time that we were going to be seeing the characters fight not only a big dark guild, but their guild master. And we got a guild master display before when we saw Makarov and Jose. And again, I've heard people pronounce it Jose, and I think they even, if I recall correctly, they call him Jose in the dub. But actually, they might call him in the sub too, but I've always just called him Jose because he looks Hispanic and his name is Jose Porla. It always just came to me like that. But the thing is, that fight was pretty short. Like, we saw displays of him, fighting like Mira Jane, Gray, and Urza and whatnot. But then we saw him and Makarov fight. That was a little bit different because Makarov was more powerful than him, and like they had a couple spells for him, but then Makarov's like, all right, no, this is over. Fairy Law, I'm getting ready. Whereas with the Oracion Seis, like, these Zero was above any of them by as they were. he was even stronger than Jalal from what we can kind of like deduce in the whole power levels of the characters and what was shown. But there was so many other aspects to it, like the whole like first chunks of like a lot of shonen, like weekly especially. There's always like these periods I call the introduction periods, because you're not getting like the layouts generally, because some series obviously vary, and especially Mishima. Mishima kind of has this whole like first chunk of the series that feels like that, because the character, you're just getting like stuff like, oh, these are the main cast. Here's their powers, their personalities. You're getting a little bit of their backstory and who they are. But with that, you finally get to like the first boss character. Natsu fighting Gadgil, for instance. It was the first time that he ever fought someone like in a big fight that was equal to him. And then Jalal was the first like big obstacle character, because he was, you know, he had this deep like marionetting, like controlling the Magic Council. He was a Wizard Saint level character. He was very powerful, and Natsu, you know, was able to beat him because he was he did a risky move by eating Ethereon and forcing himself, you know, or he just kind of like pushing his power into Dragon Force, getting the first time we ever saw Dragon Force, and then him coming back, and you had the first big character against, you know, the next big character, and this one, instead of like, oh, a Wizard Saint, we're gonna see what a Wizard Saint is really capable of. But this was a guild master, and this was not only just a guild master, this was the secret super boss of the first time we're seeing any of the Balam Alliance guilds. And again, that was a big deal. I mean, obviously we saw Hades and Margear. You can kind of, I still believe Margear was more powerful than Hades, but obviously both of them are more powerful than Zero. But even like looking at that, Zero was still a big threat, and it's kind of weird to think about, because like Zero has like kind of like a presence. Like I think like a good comparison is like I can't remember if the official one is Enel or Enaru from One Piece. Like, you got a character like pretty early in like the overall series that was more powerful than a lot of characters following it. Like he was more powerful than Faust. I would say that Zero was more powerful than like Future Rogue and stuff. Like like we didn't get a stronger like opponent really like as a long kind of layout until we finally saw Hades like in action. And obviously we got a display of him when he fought Makarov, but really we didn't get like the meat of who he was until he you know, he fought everyone in, you know, the end of the arc. And this was like almost 2 years after the Oracion Seis arc ended. But anyway, you have this character who, for one, great design. I love his design. Like, looking at him, he's got like this cool white hair with these like almost bandage-like streams. Like, I've always looked at it. I love the way that his hair like kind of like just like, again, like gets in that like that thin layer and like streaming. He has this really cool like vest kind of like coat where it has like a single color, that like solid green, and then it kind of gets into this like ripped tiger stripe almost pattern, and then the black pants. Side note, just I love that pants design. It's always been a thing that I've always loved. Obviously that was on Brain first, but I always associate with Zero because he looks so much cooler in that outfit. And I know it's probably like an anime thing. It's like when you see like anime outfits and hair, and you're like, damn, that looks cool. But then you see like what it would look like in real life, and you're like, that actually looks awful in reality. But I gotta say, I just love those pants. And I don't know, I think I've always like Zero also because I associate him for some reason with like, I've always voiced him in my head since I very first like got to him in the series, in both the anime of when I would imagine his voice in English, but also reading the manga. I don't care about the dub. I will always read his dialogue in Russian. I don't know what it is. I've always just imagined Zero as being Russian. I love that. I was like, Genesis Zero, comrade. I don't know. I've always enjoyed that idea. I think it just adds a little bit of extra spice to his character. And I was so disappointed when I got to the dub, because usually when I watch dubs, like, I want to get like the character's voice in my head, because it always adds like an extra flavor when you kind of have the set voice for the characters. But I was like, no, I'm going to stay Russian. I don't care what the dub is. I'm going to assume that he's Russian. And there's some speculation. Obviously it's not canon, but you look at like his design, because he has like this tribal design, at least for Brain. And then if you look at his belt buckle, because in the anime it's the Oracion Seis logo, you know, it's their guild mark. But in the manga originally, in the, you know, the main continuity, he has the belt buckle. It's the logo. It's the symbol from I believe it was, I can't remember if it was a coin or medallion from the Fairy Tale Phoenix Priestess movie. You know, the big important item from that. I don't. You can't really say like it's anything other than just probably Hiroshima wanted to use that design, but from that you can kind of like obviously that the movie is not canon. Dragon Christ canon, but Phoenix Priestess is not canon. You can kind of like gauge like the tribal look and the Phoenix logo. Maybe Brain and Zero originate from like a similar region. Like maybe they're from like a tribe, offset by them. Who knows? That's just speculation in the middle of this video. But anyway, the thing about Brain and Zero that I really liked is Brain was like the boss. He was the guild master. You'd look at him and assume, oh, he's the boss character. And then it was like kind of like laid out secretly that, oh, Zero is the actual, or not Zero, Midnight is the actual boss. Like, he's the most powerful guy. He's going to be the boss character of the arc. But you saw each time that one of the marks on, each time a character or a member of the Oracion Seis was defeated, one of the marks on Brain vanished. And there was kind of that mystery of like, what's happening? What does that mean? And then finally, when Midnight is defeated, it's all gone, and then he opens his eyes are a different color, and that's kind of cool, because Zero, like, there are parts, like, when he seems to get, like, riled up or something, like, his eyes switch, like, he had that when he first opened his eyes, and, like, when he showed up and confronted, everyone on, Natsu and associates and crew, and you just see, like, Oracion Seis guild master Zero, and you just see that that as this is in the image, you just see him kind of like slightly like leaned over looking at them with his like menacing like stare, and he just was an absolute powerhouse. He was just such an impressive character, because he's not supposed to be this character that's like, my backstory, it's a super deep, it's I got complex aspects to me, like a big set goal, my controls run crazy. No, that wasn't the point of his character. He was a dominating wall of just power and intimidation. He was I want to destroy. I want to see things just fall into ruin. I want to have fun. That was what he wanted. He liked to fight. He liked to kill. He liked to ruin things. And that's all he wanted. The entire reason he wanted to get Nirvana under his control was to switch light and dark all over the world and watch friends and family just kill each other. And that's all this dude wanted. And again, you can get characters like that. When you have a character like that, it's just, as long as they fit that kind of like that area of just being a all-around dominating presence, then they're good. Like, that's one of the things that I was talking about in Black Clover, because the Word Devil, like, there's not actually a lot known to him. Like, we only know like some of his plans, but like his character wasn't supposed to be this complex villain, at least that we know of about him. Like, he was just supposed to be this dominating like just tsunami of strength, and that's what Zero was. Zero was this very powerful character that Natsu needed to defeat, and we ended up getting Jalal giving his magic over to Natsu absorbing that much power, forcing his himself into Dragon Force, getting the Golden Flame, the Flame of Rebuke, and the first time we ever see Natsu display the trait of fire dragons being able to burn magic, which is really cool. And I really like that, because we know that once they get to a certain point, like, the aspects about them change. There's like, oh, at some point they get motion sickness. At some point they get the the slit dragon eye. It doesn't seem to just be automatic. There seems to be variables between different types and different individuals, but they all have their specific trait to dragon element, and Natsu's finally being able to show like, oh, can burn magic. And that was really cool, especially because it's one of those things where you can see it and it'd be like, yeah, that makes sense, that's really cool. And that was what ended up winning him the fight against Zero. And again, Zero's arsenal as well was really cool, because Brain had this, his whole spells were all based off of they're all kind of like named after music. Like, he had his I'm gonna butcher the names, Dark Capriccio and Dark Rondo, and they were pretty cool, but they were still like pretty all right spells to look at. And then you saw Zero use it, and Zero's like, don't assume that my level is the anywhere as low as Brain's. Like, he used Dark Capriccio and he's controlling it, because like the whole thing was like, it was a piercing spell, but it's like it just dig right through, it'll drill right through attacks, but it's linear, and he's just like, nope, and just starts controlling it. So he's got this very powerful piercing attack that's just like going all around in different directions, and you now have to deal with that on top of like him in general, dark gravity. And then his big attack, Genesis Zero. And a funny thing about that is we didn't actually see what it did initially, because Natsu burned it. And I love that panel, that whole panel where Natsu's just like going towards him, and you have all the spirits, the dark like specters just coming at him right before he just ignites them with flame. And we didn't actually see what it did. You see what it does in the anime the very first time, like it sucks you pretty much into a pocket dimension, and it kind of like numbs your mind until you just stop thinking, and then it'll close, and you won't die, but you'll pretty much just be not a thing anymore. You're just existing like thoughtless in a small little dimension trapped. And obviously in the anime that wasn't canon, but then we see in the Starry Sky arc that is canon when the Oracion Seis reborn. And again, I don't want to go over more of the fact that the Oracion Seis, like, it means Demon Six, because originally, like, Hiroshima had in Rave Master, they had the Demon Six, or the Oracion Six, sorry, the Demon Six, 6 demon generals. And when he made the Oracion Seis was a placeholder name for them. It wasn't their actual name. But then, like, he got too close to the deadline. He's like, okay, I'm just gonna go with that. That's cool. And then now it's becoming like a running thing, because in Eden Zero there's the Oracion Seis Galactica, which they're not the original ones in Rave Master were more of like an elite members of Demon Card, and then they're their own guild in Fairy Tail, and then in Eden Zero they're more of like a title. They don't have to be associated with each other. It's just those high level criminals. But with the fact that they're the number in them, the word means 6. But neither the Oracion Seis or the Oracion Seis Reborn in the Starry Sky arc actually have 6 members, because Zero is technically a member, Claudia's a member, Imitatia is a member. It was just kind of like, it's just a funny little thing. But Zero, he just exists as this so impressive powerhouse. He's just a fun villain. His fight was really good, especially like the anime. It's one of those times where you actually see like a fight in anime, and like a weekly anime especially, where it's like, damn, I actually did really good. I enjoyed it. The music especially was good. The voice acting, I still love going back and watching that fight in that scene. And this video is already longer than what I planned, but it's just, Zero's got a special spot because I love that arc. It's still one of my favorite arcs in Fairy Tail. And he was just a fun character to show up and really just be this dominating presence. And that's gonna be it for this one. There's not really a theme this week. I'm hoping to like talk a little bit about the themes when I actually get the themes, but also compress them. I was hoping that these would be no longer than 15 minutes. The first one's gonna be a little longer, 17 minutes. But obviously, people know that if you've been on my channel, you know that it's super easy for me to rant about Fairy Tail. I'll just go off and talk about aspects of it. But other than that, that's gonna be it for this one. It was a really good battle. You had some really good spreads. First times for a lot of different displays. The lessons learned. That's actually one of the lessons that Natsu learned. That was a little bit low key. It was a little bit of a less obvious character moment, because Natsu was just like, he didn't, at first he's like, I don't care about Jalal. I don't give a shit about him. He made Urza cry. He almost killed her, all these things. He tried to attack him on sight, and then he threw Jalal, and he's like, tried to sacrifice. He became a meat shield to help Natsu, gave him his power to help him defeat Zero. And then Natsu kind of like gained this like idea of forgiveness and redemption for others. And we see that happening now, like with what happened with Merspovio, and he really wanted to help this guy who was trying to redeem himself and become a good guy after however many centuries of being a murderous guy that's like, humans were nothing to me. I could kill them with no remorse. And then it was like, I realized how shitty I was, and I want to do better. And not to, after learning that lesson, it was just a pretty hard part on him when he, was running into what to do there. So like, there's a lot of ties into Zero that I can do. There's, big character moments, art, action, the presence of this character, the display of the first time we see Balam Alliance Dark Guild Master, and all these different aspects to him that I really like. Because when you look at him, again, I'm gonna wrap it up because I'm almost at 20 minutes. When I talk about him and look at him, he as a character, there's not a whole lot to his description. Like, if you read about him, he's this very powerful character. He just wants to destroy and fight and kill. It's the amount of the things that tied together and occurred because of that arc and his presence within the arc, which is really cool. And I enjoy the character a lot. Again, he's just one of those guys where it wouldn't surprise me if there was like a Fairy Tail, like, oh, we want to know who's the most popular villains, and like Zero probably wouldn't rank that high. I don't know, but I would definitely rank him high personally, because I always liked the character. He's just a fun dude. Other than that, Drop a comment below and what you think about the character. Again, to go check out my Twitter or the community page on my channel to vote for the current themes. And the theme that wins will be the theme starting with the next fairy tale one. So this week, again, this video, there's going to be one for Black Clover on Tuesday, and then on Thursday, I'm going to do a mystery one, and it will always be a mystery one on Thursday. But other than that, I really appreciate it if you thumbs up the video by pressing the like button and the subscribe button, and check out my other videos. I'm really hoping to keep these between like 20 minutes is like long for a discussion video like this. I mean, probably not for some channels because that's like people are gonna listen to them. Like my channel's pretty small. I'll be surprised if people make it this far, but I appreciate it if you do. But other than that, again, I really appreciate it. Again, everyone that listened to the video and everyone who subscribed. But other than that, thanks